So Theresa May is getting a lot of heat at the moment for suggesting that we maybe would extend the Brexit period. Now, what this essentially means is she would have had 2 years plus extra time to actually get things sorted. Um, I've been very clear about this from the get-go. I'm a Remainer. I think we are making a massive mistake, but assuming that this is the only option, I'm in favour of it. Now, here's why. It's not because I think it could lead to us staying in the European Union. That would be great, but we don't currently have the infrastructure to leave the European Union. And I'm going to go into why. So, Brexit means Brexit. That's what I keep hearing. Brexit means 100 different things, but it always comes down to that borderline of Brexit means Brexit. Okay, well, let's get into that. Again, Brexit means Brexit. So, everything we get from Europe, gone. Gone. Completely. I've had a number of training courses paid for by Europe, but they're gone. And while I was talking to a friend about this, he said, okay, well, we're going to have that money in the UK, so who's to say that that money won't come from our own government now? Theresa May took away meals, took away food from 60,000 children. What makes you think she's going to pay for adult learning courses? Seriously, think about it. Everything that Theresa May has taken, and even David Cameron before her, and even Tony Blair before that, because they are all Tories with the same mentality. Take from the poor, give to the rich. So what has Theresa May done? She has cut the police force more than any other politician. What has that led to? Well, we're now more vulnerable to attacks than we ever have been before. And even after decorated police officers told her, look, if you carry on with these cuts, you are going to leave us open to an attack. What happened? She carried on, which led to an attack. Cutting fire and rescue, which, again, leads to more fires. Yes, human error is a massive thing when it comes to the cause of fires, but Tory councils are responsible for the cladding on a lot of towers, like Grenfell. What happened? You need fire response. You need fire and rescue. Cutting it is moronic. NHS. We have the money for the NHS, and I've been over this before, so I'm not going to rehash the numbers, but we have the money to fund the NHS. We have the money to fund the NHS and social care. But it is being stripped, and yet we are meant to beg and praise them when they give just a little bit more to the NHS, despite the fact that they are still withholding billions. We don't have trade deals set up. We have one. And we have a possible one with America. Now, I've said before my issues with America, but I will briefly touch on with Donald Trump again, because that is a man who has never upheld his end of the bargain. He has screwed over every business partner he's ever had. He's set up charities just to pay for his legal bills. Now, these aren't, hey, charities of Donald Trump. These are charities to help children with cancer, to help veterans, and yet they've not received any of that money. Trump and Trump's family take it for themselves because they are scumbags. And yet, in order to get a deal with America, we're going to have to sell off our NHS. Again, not to America, but it's going to go directly to Donald Trump, because despite the fact that the Emoluments Clause means he should be impeached 100 times over, he's still acting out of his own personal ego and his own personal bank account. Proven time and time again over the last 2 years. But Brexit means Brexit. So half the food that this country imports, gone. That has to get replaced somehow, otherwise it's going to leave the people literally starving to death. And I know that's already happening thanks to Esther McVeigh and those goddamn universal credit system that she keeps protecting. despite every single investigation into it saying it doesn't work. Despite the fact that 81,000 people in this country have died because of that universal credit system. But Brexit means Brexit, so wave goodbye to the NHS, because we need to buy chickens that are washed in chlorine. We need to buy food that has such low standards that it's not sold anywhere else in the developed world. And when it is imported, we're very, very strict on what we do actually import. So we import hen cheese chocolate. Okay. Do we import meat? Not yet. Does anyone else do it? Canada? Nah. No. And the reason why is because America doesn't have good food standards with their food, with the majority of their food. I mean, hell, they don't even have good standards with their water. Flint, Michigan, to this day, is still suffering with a toxic level of lead in its water. And that is an issue that has spread to other states now. Still, nothing's being done. Of course not. They put Scott Pruitt in charge of the EPA, who spent his entire career trying to destroy the EPA, and now his temporary replacement is doing the exact same thing. But Brexit means Brexit, so hello, overpriced crap food. Goodbye NHS. Oh, overpriced? That's right, because it's going to cost more to import it. And literally no company has ever said, yeah, you know what, we're going to pay for this. I mean, I know it's going to cost us more, but we're going to take it from our profits, so you don't have to. No company has ever said that at all. Doesn't happen. That extra cost of importing is going to come onto us. So despite the fact that the average household is £49 a week short of providing a basic lifestyle, doesn't matter to Theresa May, doesn't matter to Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg, they couldn't give a fuck, they're multi-millionaires. Jacob Rees-Mogg's second job pays him just shy of £500 an hour. Son of a bitch is on 77 plus grand a year just from being a politician, plus travel expenses, plus £70 a day food allowance. He's not going to care that prices of food goes up by a couple of quid, but it's going to affect you and me. But Brexit means Brexit, so that's the hit we're going to have to take. Then we've got the people in this country, the immigrants. Now, I think I've made it perfectly clear before, I'm pro-multiculturalism. I think when a country, an empire, a body stops progressing, stops changing, stops evolving, it withers and dies. And I say that because I see that throughout history. When anybody, whether it's a country, whether it's an empire, whether it's this, that, and the other, when it refuses to change with the times, when it refuses to progress, it dies out. But okay, we've got a number of EU immigrants in this country who don't have visas. Brexit means Brexit, so they're gone. Now, I know David Davis has said that EU migrants will have that chance, but then he's also said that there will be no special privileges. Jacob Rees-Mogg has said there will be no special privileges. And I would say Theresa May has said that there'll be a little more allowance given towards EU migrants who are already here, but Theresa May has said a lot of things and done the opposite. Theresa May, the last couple of days, wanted the entire country to join her in giving the support to our veterans, and yet she's happy to see our veterans sleeping on the streets, happy to see families on the streets, happy to allow Esther McVey to carry on a murderous rampage. 81,000 people dead in this country because of Esther McVey and Ian Duncan Smith and their appalling universal credit system. But Theresa May keeps that going. But the EU migrants, well, Brexit means Brexit, so they're gone. So, agriculture, factories. I mean, hell, in Dover there's a factory that makes boxes. I worked there for 3-4 years. If we boot out all of the EU immigrants who don't have visas, that place will shut down. No, I know it's a blanket statement. I know that there are English people who would gladly take those jobs. But the English people I've seen work there who finish that shift, maybe that week, and then never come back. And it's not because they get the sack. It's because they don't want to do the job. I don't blame them, it's a shit job. I worked in a tomato pack house for the first 3 years of my working life. Same thing. And again, I don't blame anyone for not wanting to do that job. It's crap. It's freezing cold. Going through fruit. But EU migrants do it because why not? Those kind of places will shut down because they won't have the workforce. Yes, there will always be English people who take those jobs, but there will also be a lot of other entitled little pricks who don't understand the value of hard work and won't do it. And I see this whenever you stop people in the street and you see these interviews and you get them talking about migration and why they don't like it. Immigrants coming over, taking over all our jobs, and then they just sit on their asses on benefits all day. It's one or the other. They're either sitting on their arse all day or they're taking your job. They cannot do two things. They're good, but not that good. Social care. Fairly easy job to walk into. Fairly difficult job to keep at. And yet, strong backbone of migrants. Now I know, not just EU migrants, but obviously, with the free man movement, a strong backbone of EU migrants. That'll fuck up a lot of care homes. And a lot of people with severe autism that live in these care homes do not react well to change. Do not react well to a low number of staff. That's going to lead to a lot of injuries. I'll tell you point blank, that is going to lead to a hell of a lot of injuries. But Theresa May doesn't care about that. Of course not. She doesn't work in care. Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Michael Gove don't give a fuck because they don't work in care homes. So they don't care. Extending the Brexit period is not a bad thing. Brexit means Brexit is crap. We do not currently have the infrastructure. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. The EU have been very, very kind, saying, look, we can get a deal done within 6 to 8 weeks, but we have to address the Irish border, and Theresa May has not done that. It was very clear when the EU got their heads up about the Chequers deal before it was officially brought to them, and they said, look, you're not addressing the problem here. If you bring this to us, we won't accept it. So what did she do? Acted like Donald Trump. Took the idea she was told wouldn't work, doubled down on it, and took it to the EU leaders. What did they say? Well, they said, no, look, this isn't going to work. This doesn't address the problem. This violates the Good Friday Agreement, the foundation of peace that is so desperately needed. Chequers Agreement doesn't address it. It doesn't deal with the issue. So what does Theresa May do after that? Oh, they just won't tell me what's wrong. They're bullying me. They should do exactly what I say. Fuck off. Brexit means Brexit is crap. I believe this country can stand on its own 2 feet with the right infrastructure. I do not believe this country will stand on its 2 feet with a bunch of politicians who are constantly pissing on us. Who are constantly taking from the bottom and giving to the top. Who have no interest in seeing this country succeed. They just want to make more money. Now, I think Jeremy Corbyn would be slightly different in these negotiations. They're very, very difficult, but when you analyse what Corbyn is saying, what he said in the past, I personally think he's a leaver. And he would work for it. Theresa May wanted number 10, so she took that job regardless. And she has made a shit ton of money doing it. Boris Johnson wants number 10, but he wants to be seen as the popular rebel, which is why he was on the Leave campaign, because he didn't think the Leave campaign would work. But he wanted to be seen as that rebel, because that's what motivates him politically. It's not being honest. It's not his political ideology that he thinks is better and he thinks is the best way to lead a country. It's because that's how he thinks everyone operates, because that's how he operates. Ego. Jacob Rees-Mogg. Every single vote that has ever been made against the people of this country, he's done it. You want to take away more money from people in JSA? Jacob's voted for that. You want to take away restrictions, allowing landlords to charge thousands for a shoebox flat with mould on? Done. Those are the politicians leading the country. Because of that, we need more time with Brexit. Even if Labour get in and they do not do a second referendum, we need more time to get those fuckers out. Because they do not represent you, they do not care about you. And when this all goes horribly wrong, they will not suffer. But the rest of us will.